but we don't have any control or oversight, and they're expected to have, there's their own checks and balances. And honestly, I don't know what's happened here in the past, but there have been installations where the garrison commander or the wing commander have had the PTOs or booster clubs stand out and liquidated their funds and closed their books and did away with them because they couldn't operate properly. But it's a benefit to us. Our athletic programs are fully funded in that, we buy uniforms and we have balls and nets and we turn the lights on and off and all that thing. But we also understand that Booster Club does other things like providing snacks and things for kids on trips. I don't know what all the Booster Clubs do here, but it's a difficult thing because we don't have oversight of the Booster Club governance over them. So it's a trusting relationship, more or less.
Okay, and then the oversight of the official funds for the athletic department and how those are is presumably first under the purview of, the athletic director and then the principal.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So they, we do get, their high schools here do get a budget for the purchasing of athletic equipment. At the end of each season, presumably, Ms. Perry, if I'm speaking out of turn,
So for instance, this year our budget for the sports for $80,000 goes to the athletic director. We use those funds for the GPC program, which, as you know, is very regulated. We cannot purchase with those. We're on a uniform cycle, so each team gets uniforms on a cycle. So baseball doesn't get new uniforms every year, and those uniforms are school property. Anytime you do things with the GPC, it's school property, so they don't have their names on the back. So things like that. So. Ms. Prather, as the athletic director, has to do Title IX reports to KHSAA to make sure that we're not spending all our money on male sports as opposed to female sports. So there's a lot of guidelines and regulations with that we must follow. And so we look at that. Coaches put in what they need, what they want, and we look. I sit with Ms. Prather. We go through here and make it fair and equitable. What is the most? What is the for instance, the track thing, we want to make sure we have a track together this year. So we put those up at the top. So we make those calls. So they turn in way more than the $18,000 to spend, but we have to at some point go through what can we get with that. Like Mr. Gerber said, if there's unfunded requirements that we want to try to get, we add that to the thing, and we have additional money that we're ready to spend. That's kind of how it works.
Okay, so on the life cycle replacement for uniforms, so I think you were saying that it's programmed out by sport to ensure that there is equity. So is there an auditable list with in 2020, for instance, we need softball uniforms? Is that there, or is there an understanding that football uniforms are going to wear out faster than baseball uniforms, so you have some sort of analysis that is fair, ensures all sports, regardless of popularity, are on there and they're getting the equipment that they need?
She has that, and I've seen it mine, so I can share that kind of the schedule that we're on. Yeah, and with football, it's going to be more expensive, so I'd like to say they're all on a 5-year cycle, but I can check on that.
the helmets, for instance, is a big issue.
The helmets and pads are refurbished every year. This year it costs close to, I believe, $3,000. We send them off, get refurbished, recertified, and then we'll get those back. So that's with the GTC card. So that is part of that funding.
But Ms. Prather has a spreadsheet that says, okay, we bought the female basketball uniforms in 2010, and in 2015 we should be buying female basketball uniforms, that kind of thing. So it's programmed so that, okay.
Yeah, and I think there's a natural, especially in part of the students, if they, you see this year the basketball team is getting new uniforms and I didn't get uniforms, my zipper doesn't work, well, they must like basketball more than than me, and that's, yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, there is a schedule, but if there are some things that it's not working, you know, that schedule, I'm not gonna, I'll tell you, I want to schedule good. To me, I gotta look at this like that. You know, so I wanna make sure, I know there's an issue with soccer, I wanna make sure that they all, you know, have the same white shorts, you know, so that's something that was concerning to me as I came in this year.
So and I thank you very much for that. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And then also that there was a perception that maybe the more savvy coaches were getting a bigger share of the pot. So I just wanted to publicly have that out there, that there is a program and it's managed at the appropriate level.
Yes.
And Ms. Fraser was very, very good about it.
And that's not to say that if there were a need, and we didn't have the funding, whatever they were saying, $18,000 or whatever, then he could request and I could pursue additional funding for one-off. But you know, certainly then it would be requested of me. What is the program? Why are we at this place? Why did you buy these uniforms in 2010? It's only 2013. Why are we buying uniforms again? And there would have to be some compelling reason for us to do it. So that's why she has to keep the spreadsheet she has. So I'm assuming she has that, yeah?
And sorry to monopolize the time, I just have one more question on this. So there is also an impression that, and I've talked to several parents about this, that perhaps boosters, because of what has happened in the past, are applying booster funds for items that should be funded as part of the account they're supposed to go to the sport itself so that you can conduct the event. And I don't have any special information on it. I just know that there is a perception out there that there's a kind of an institutional norm where that is happening in multiple sports. So I don't have any data. I know I've talked to
that. I
some
wouldn't
parents.
know. We lived in Japan, and our moms would fly over before every season over to Seoul and buy the uniforms for the season, put the kids' names on the back, and because they could buy them on the street and they were very inexpensive in Seoul. So there was always extra money in the athletic budget. So some sports didn't have moms who did that, so they didn't get new uniforms, so there was a discrepancy there. If the booster club should never be buying things that we're supposed to buy. But if a team makes a decision that they want to buy uniforms because they want their name on their back and they want to go away with that, that's something that the team has to decide. But that's fraught with problems too, because can every kid afford to buy their own jersey, and where do you go and buy it? How is that vetted? So it is a slippery slope, and really the booster club should not be buying under a general definition the things that we're supposed to buy. And if they are, then Mr. Perry needs to know about it and he needs to take action.
And I encourage my coaches to know what the booster clubs are doing, because they know the GBC program, and to add a piece of that is the student activity fund. So when they take a big receipts for basketball, that money goes back in the student account fund, really earmarked for basketball. So that's a piece of it too. So I encourage the coaches to know what's going on, so they can inform and help us. Correct.
No, and thank you. And as you can imagine, Mr. Perry, this is sports, as we talked before, one of the main kind of interaction points for parents in the school, and they become very interested in these items. To the board, are there any comments, questions, concerns on this?
I think you just hit it. The only question I had is, I know there's a lot of confusion from people about gate entry, funds. Like football has, 6 home games a year or something, and does that gate funds that they get, does that go back kind of toward football, or does it go to all sports across the board? Swim used to have what was it called? The big Patton Invitational, where they made a lot of money on gate entry, but that was one event a year. Does that get earmarked primarily for the swim team? expenses. I think that's been a question a lot of people that I've heard over the past 2 years ask quite often. Where does that gate receipt go?
I think it goes back to the general athletic and then how that is,
I'm guessing some of it goes to officials and some of those kind of things, but I think a lot of people are real confused when there's a big audience and there's a lot of money taken in. How's that allocated for the department?
officials would pay through the GPC for the check writing program. Now, unless you are,
Unless you're charged.
unless you're a federal employee, it goes through, another program. But if teams are coming to us and paying an entry fee, that's a little bit different. So we have to pay those people who gave us, usually who gave us. If they're paying, for instance, track, $150 to keep the team in, we would pay the officials through the agencies.
So there's really the third fund, and Ms. Perry alluded to it, but we have a student activity fund. And each sport has a part of that fund, and there's an overall athletic fund. So some of those gate receipts go into that athletic fund, or they could go into the specific sport. But if we're having an entry kind of thing, so if we're having a wrestling match and we invite 15 teams and every team has to pay $400, we can't use the GPC card to pay for the referees because we're charging an entry fee for a team. So those referees have to be paid out of the gate receipts that we get from out of our student athletic fund, activity fund. So it's probably a misunderstood thing that everybody thinks it's all in the same checkbook, and it's really not in the same checkbook. So sometimes the government covers it because we use the GPC and we're allowed to use the GPC, and sometimes we're not. We have to use athletic funds money for it. And there is a fund council at the high school that meets. I don't know how monthly, I guess. And money. If there's a shortfall in a particular fund, money could be moved. I'm sure you there's a general fund too that the principal could control. But the principal sits on the fund council along with the athletic director and other individuals. So it's pretty tightly controlled. And they too have an independent audit at the end of each school year.
Are there any other questions, comments? Hearing none. The next item on the agenda, the Board of Education Awards for Academic Excellence. This is a program that the board established last year. We'll give out the guidance, sir, so you can give it to the principals, but the intent is to recognize one student, grades 3 through 12, for truly outstanding academic achievement and excellence through hard work and the overcoming of adversity. So we'll take multiple packets. The winners, though, will be limited to one per grade. We had many excellent packets last year, and so the board will vote on those, and we will announce the winners prior to the last board meeting and come up with a plan on how to recognize these students. To the members of the board, are there any questions, comments on this?
Do we have dates set for suspenses or
So
anything like
the
that?
suspense is May 8th. Do they have templated? And the intent is the last board meeting will be May 18th. So that allows us time to vote and produce I'm drawing a blank.
Winners.
The documents.
Right.
Certificates.
Okay, great.
Are there,
Just get us that information, we'll get that out.
thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? No? Hearing none? So we spent a lot of time on math. The new topic is a continuation of the board's effort to have a frank and open dialogue with the administration on math improvement. And this month's topic is focused on math tutoring and teacher-led student improvement. So we understand there's an ongoing math tutoring program at the high school. We just hope to have a quick discussion about both of these efforts.
Math tutoring at the high school.
Yeah, we do. We have math tutoring twice a week after school. We actually added another one mainly for seniors that were struggling with that fourth math credit to try to graduate with Algebra 2. So we have another math tutoring. So we actually have it 4 times a week. And next year we're adding a math lab class, so we'll have 3 math lab classes. We're going to do some assessments for next year to encourage, again, a parent can say, hey, I don't want my kid to take this extra math lab class. A parent can say that. We can encourage it to recommend, but again, at the end of the day, the parent says, hey, I don't want my kid to be in this math lab class. And that happens. So we have had those conversations, but we will have an extra lab class next year. So there's kids who need extra help in Algebra 1, extra help in geometry, extra help in Algebra 2, for modeling class, will be a lab class. We're also looking at an intervention block during the day, so we can shorten the classes about a few minutes a day, 3 to 4 minutes. Each class will have an intervention block where students will be able to get identified or intensive assistance in whatever they need. These are math students. They can go to a math teacher and get extra help. If they're AP students, they need extra help on some AP work. They can go there, so we kind of flexible at the high school. So we're looking at implementing that for next year to assist our students.
So, Mr. Perry, the math lab courses, are those a full hour course, credit hour course?
They are. They would fall, it would be a math credit, but they would fall into an elective credit.
And, you know,
Which is an important distinction, so.
right.
So they would still continue, they'd have to get their format. So a lot of times what it does is it eats up those elective credits that parents and students want their kids to be able to experience. So, some of the graduation requirements of the parents.
And Mr. Perry, we had a discussion about this, I think, in the fall, and I really appreciate, as we've talked about how to improve math, and one of the things we discussed was the KIPP Academy model and the higher exposure times on a daily basis to math, and one of the ideas that we talked about with math labs, and I just, I want to thank you for. I didn't think it would happen this quickly. So, Mr. Gerster, Mr. Perry, appreciate that.
Well, and some of it's been by need. I mean, we have some seniors that are struggling in mathematics, and we targeted them in January pretty heavily because the second semester is critical for this, so they can walk. So, besides our other efforts, but we've had pretty good attendance in the after-school ones. I mean, we've had 7 to 10 kids in the times I've been in there, so it's working.
No, thank you very much. So just so I understand how a math lab works in terms of teacher involvement and focus, is it, the first thought was, okay, well, this is just a chance for the students to do their homework, and if they have a question, to ask. Is it something beyond that? Or
It's not homework. Most of the students, and we used to have another course that we called a different name, but it's early on in their math career, and Algebra 1. We have probably more kids that will take math lab and that are in Algebra 1 because they need the boost that they weren't ready for Algebra 1. But it could be any other classes too, and it's more one-on-one. It's almost a prescriptive type of arrangement in the lab classes rather than here's time for you to do your homework. So the teachers would talk with in their collaboration time. Mr. Perry's having difficulty doing this, Mr. Dominguez, Mr. Gerster's, and so it's prescriptive in that it's one-on-one instruction that's provided. It's not a lecture, nor is it I'm sitting behind the desk and if you have any questions about the work you're doing, let me know. So it's a lot of one-on-one.
It's perfect when we follow with that algebra, when the kids in algebra 1 class, and they're getting additional time to help in what they're doing. They can be further behind, so they have to catch them up. Not every kid's going to come in and ninth grade ready for algebra 1. So we're at an intervention block, and then also it's lab classes, to maybe try to catch them up more time together. Really, I don't want to say just pass their algebra 1 to get the skills to get caught up. But when they go to that algebra 2, the geometry next, the tertiary to get to it. So the goal is not for these kids to have 3 lab classes throughout their career. But yeah, that's the purpose of this.
Thank you for that feedback, and just to reiterate, the concern from parents would be, well, one, this I think is an excellent kind of step in the right direction, but we want to be concerned, we would be concerned that we use the time as efficiently as possible to ensure that students are growing. So I appreciate that. To the board, are there questions, comments?
Will the teachers that are running the math lab be the same teachers that are teaching the courses? Or,
Not necessarily.
okay.
There wouldn't be, for instance, it wouldn't be the geometry teacher has to be the geometry has to be. It could work out that way, but it's not necessarily.
One other thing too, this is somewhat related on the student improvement, but I've had a number of conversations recently that still within the high school math department that kids are not able to go over, they take a test and then the teacher will hold the test for an extended period of time. They never get to go over what they've done on the test in class, so they never know what they've not done well on. So if you miss a few questions on there, they never know, or it's too late by the time they get to it to know what they need to work on. Same thing to a certain extent with homework as well, getting homework returned. So it's just discussions. I don't know if it's truly going on or not, but that may be something that will help with student improvement if teachers can, you know, we're old model, as Mr. Gerstner says, but used to you take a test, the next time back in class after they're all graded, you distribute them back out, you got to see, you know what 8 questions you missed right there, and then that gives you an idea what you need to work on prior to the next test. I gotta believe if I've had 3 or 4 conversations like that, then there's some bit of a trend of that going on within some of the classes. So I would just ask maybe to potentially look into that on the student improvement side of the
And
house.
that concerns me because I did put in a 5-day rule. I wanted to get it back within 5 days of the test. And so I would encourage parents to contact me, email me. I'll forward it right to the teacher when I did not in there. So because I agree. We want to get feedback. We want to have immediate over, so the kids know exactly what they're doing. We don't want to sit. We get progress reports tomorrow, and I want that to be the most accurate grade that the student has. We're not holding papers in our desks and not putting them in computers. So that's concerning. So I encourage them to come to me and I'll address it.
And just one last comment there. One comment that a parent had made was that they were being held because not all the students had taken the test yet. So they were holding them for an extended period of time. Well, I don't know that that's a really legitimate reason because you maybe had a kid that still hadn't taken it. How are they going to remember to share that? And if you have different versions of the same test, the people that haven't done it can take a different version. So I mean, just some feedback for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? No? Hearing none. So we had, I think we're at an hour and 20 minutes. So in the interest of time, I'll move this along to ensure that the community has a chance to speak. The next item be an update on graduation activities. And the intent here is just to make sure that the funds required for the graduation, the coordination required for the graduation, the volunteers that are necessary to carry it out, that you have what you need and the plan is set and you don't need additional help from the community. So I was just hoping to get a quick.
Yeah, I think we're good. Mr. Dominguez and Mr. Jackson went over them with people on base yesterday to make sure the support we need, like put the flags up. We're having a Brooksville on the 26th at 6 p.m. And so, really, I'm very confident that everything has been, I've had a couple of checklists with my staff that I go over. I have 2 to 3 meetings already, and we'll start meeting weekly to make sure that we're covering everything and everything's put together. So I'm very confident that everything is in line and ready.
Okay, and in terms of volunteers, do you feel comfortable that you have enough people that will be around to help? Okay.
Yeah, in our teachers, it's required even for our teachers this year, so our teachers will be there to assist as well. As part of the event itself.
Any questions on graduation from the board, comments? All right, Ms. Berry, I'm excited for you. You've worked hard this year to kind of bring the school forward. So I hope you enjoy this process, and that's a good culminating event for the year.
We want everyone there, including all 79. We want all the same.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Gerstner, next we have the principal reports.
Yeah, we only have 2 here, so, and we've heard from Mr. Perry enough today, so,
Yeah.
We can never hear enough from Mr. Perry.
well, maybe the rest of y'all can stay, but I've heard enough.
We missed the last board, so we had to catch up.
So, I think in the interest of time, if it's all right, as long as it's all right with the board, we will continue on.
Yep.
Hearing nothing, so we'll next move to an additional report from Mr. Gerstner on the personnel actions.
Yeah, and we had one aide that left, but the major news is that our staffing has been, our enrollment at Scott Middle School has been running above 350 for several months, and the agency has finally decided to give us an assistant principal for Dr. Washington. So we have an assistant principal who will be here in a couple of weeks. I think May 1st is her start date. Gwen Davis is her name, and I happen to know her because I hired her. So she's a wonderful person and a good educator. She's a good mom, and she's going to be a good fit for us at Scott Middle School. So Gwen Davis will be here on May the 1st, and we'll hope that you'll all be able to welcome her at the next board meeting. So that's very good news for us. And then if I could, I'll just skip right to the extended school year program. For any parents that are here and for any parents you know who have a child with special needs, our extended school year program is for students who may regress if they did not have a continuation in some degree of their school program. So there's a process that goes through. You go through it with your case review committee at the school level. They determine with the parents whether or not a child needs to have an extended school year to maintain their level of achievement. The program typically runs for the first month of the summer, and then the parents have off for a month, and then we re-energize for school. The exact start date, I'm not sure, it's on or about the first week of June, and we end on July the 7th. There's a day off for the 4th of July in there. But any parent who has a special needs student, or anyone who, if you know anyone who has a special needs student, please encourage them to meet with their case study committee at the school level. They make the determinations together with the parent whether or not the child needs the extended school year program.